What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Another fun video for you guys. In this one, we're back in Standard with a Jund list, Citadel's Wardens. This was a viewer-submitted idea, and their suggestion was combining Bolas' Citadel with Nexus Wardens, Living Twister, and Skola Grovedancer. So kind of a lot going on there. Not exactly a combo deck, more of just something that's highly synergistic. So let's start with Bolas' Citadel and kind of start breaking down what we're trying to do here. So Bolas' Citadel is a 6-mana legendary artifact, 3 and triple black. So pretty intense mana cost and is legendary, so just the 2 of. However, it's super powerful. Basically how this works is we get to look at the top card of our library anytime, and whatever the mana cost of that card is, whether it's 2, 3, or 4, instead of paying mana for it, we pay for that card using our life total. So if it's a 4 mana spell of any color, it doesn't matter, we just pay 4 life and we get to cast that. Of course, we still have to follow the typical rules restrictions, so if it's a creature, we can only play it on our turn. Instant, we can still play it anytime. And also has this kind of alternate win condition where we can tap it and sacrifice 10 non-land permanents. Each opponent loses 10 life. So even if we just kind of ping away at our opponent's life total, we don't quite have enough for lethal. If we have enough permanents on board, that includes the Citadel itself or any tokens that we have, then we can sacrifice those and finish them off with the last 10 points of damage before they have a chance to untap and respawn. So super powerful card in the right build. And obviously, you need a ton of life to get there, and Nexus Wardens is what's going to enable us to have enough life to chain together a bunch of spells to close out games with Bolas' Citadel. And Nexus Wardens is a 1/4 for 3. It does have reach, so not super powerful on its own, but the 4 toughness and reach is going to give us a lot of game against the early threats from our creatures, be they on the ground or in the air. And whenever we play an enchantment, we gain 2 life. So we're running a lot of enchantment synergy here to try to get as much life as we can, chain together spells, and kind of keep going. We're also running Living Twister just as a 1 of. It's a double red and a green, so pretty intense cost here on a 3-color deck. It is a 2/5, so it's pretty decent stats. 5 toughness, again, it's going to kind of keep our opponent's early threats at bay. And once we have Bolas' Citadel, we don't necessarily need to have a whole lot of lands in play. So this allows us to kind of utilize those lands for a little bit of reach, as we can pay 1 in red to discard a land and deal 2 damage to any target. So that's creatures, planeswalkers, or just straight to our opponent. And we can pay green to return a tap land you control to its owner's hand. So you can just tap all your lands, bounce them back to your hand, and deal 2 damage to your opponent to finish them off. To creatures so that they can't block, and you can attack in for lethal. And both the Citadel, it doesn't really matter how much lands you have in play. You're just using your life total as a resource. So it's kind of like the black Fires of Invention, whereas black cards often end up, using your life total as a resource, and so it kind of works that way. And the other kind of piece of the equation here is Skola Grovedancer. It's a 2-mana 2/2. It's an enchantment creature, so it's going to give us life if we cast this with the Nexus Wardens down. It says whenever a land is put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 1 life. So if we're discarding lands to Living Twister, we'll get that little bit of life, and we can kind of use that life again to play spells off the top of our library with the Citadel out. And obviously you can only play 1 land per turn, so this has an activated ability. We can play 2 in green to put the top card of our library into our graveyard. So when we do that, obviously if it's a land, we'll gain a life, and then we can kind of keep fishing for more creatures, some removal, whatever the case may be. So the idea is you want to have a Citadel out, and then just chain together a bunch of spells with Nexus Wardens, gaining a ton of life and adding to the board, and just closing out the games that way. So we're also running Destiny Spinner as an enchantment creature. It's a 2/3. Creature enchantment spells you control can't be countered, and has this nice activated ability for 4 mana. We can turn a land into an XX, where X is equal to the number of enchantments you control. We have a ton of enchantment synergy, so this is kind of another way for us to kind of go wide and close out games, because we can have a nice big land creature that's attacking with trample. We're also running Nessian Wanderer. It's a 1/3 for 2. And whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under control, we look at the top 3 cards of our library, and we get a land card from among them into our hand. So this is great in the early game. It's a 3 toughness, so it makes it a little difficult for our opponent to attack in. and it finds us land, so we can kind of curve out into our 5 and our 6 drops, and thins our deck in the later game. The land goes to our hand, so we can always discard it to Living Twister, so some nice little bit of synergy there. And so all these cards kind of do their part, but don't necessarily want to be all in on 4 ofs, so I think 3 of each is the right number. We'd have a little bit of interaction here. An Assassin's Trophy is kind of a catch-all. We can destroy any permanent from our opponent's side. They do get to search for a basic, so we have to kind of be careful when and how we use this. But most of our removal is creature-based. For example, we have the Murderous Rider, which hits creatures or planeswalkers at instant speed. We do lose 2 life, but we have, of course, a 2/3 life-linking creature on the other side of it. You do have to be careful with the Bolas Citadel. If this is a card that's on top of your library, the mana cost is still 3, but then you're also losing the 2 life from casting the instant side, so it's a total of 5 life that you're paying to cast a spell with the Citadel out from the top of your library. So that's something to keep in mind. But otherwise, it's just a fantastic removal spell, and anything we do to kind of gain some life is fantastic. So we're running that as a 3 of. Also, Dryad of the Ilysian Grove as a 3 of as well. It's a 2/4 enchantment creature, so give us some more enchantment synergy. We can play an additional land on each of our turns, and lands we control are every basic land type. So our 3-color deck with our intense mana cost, double, triple, red and black and things like that. This gives us all the fixing we need. It's an enchantment creature, so it's going to gain us some life potential with the Nexus Wardens already out. And we also play additional land on each of our turns. So we have the Bolt Citadel down, and we run into a pocket of lands on our deck. This Dryad allows us to play all those lands, basically, so we can kind of keep digging for spells. So that's really great synergy there. Nightmare Shepherd is just a powerful creature on its own. It's a 4/4 flyer for 4. And it is an enchantment creature, so tons of synergy there. And also gives us a nice utility here where we can block our opponent's creatures. And when our creatures die, we just get them another token. And so we get additional enter the battlefield triggers off our Nexus Wardens. So if our enchantment creature dies, we have a Nexus Wardens out in play. And so we block with like our Destiny Spinner just to prevent some damage. The spinner dies, we can exile it, make a copy that's a 1/1 token. That token re-enters the battlefield, re-triggers our Nexus Wardens, and gains us some more life because it's an enchantment. We also have a little bit of enchantment removal here in Iroas' Blessing, just as a 2 of. When it enters, we get one of our creatures gets +1/+1, and it deals 4 damage to a creature or planeswalker on our opponent's side. So 4 damage is going to hit most creatures, but not everything, so that's why just the 2 of. Even if it hits a planeswalker, it can always kind of slow them down. Maybe the Nightmare Shepherd can kind of fly through and finish them off. We do have some hard removal in our sideboard, but just trying to get as much enchantment synergy here in the main deck. We're running just 2 of here. And the Akroan War is also some nice enchantment removal, kind of a one-sided board wipe. As when it comes down, we gain control of one of our opponent's creatures for as long as this saga remains on the battlefield. And following chapter, our opponent has to attack in with all of their creatures, and then the 3rd chapter, all the creatures that they attacked in with will then deal damage to itself equal to their power, unless of course they have vigilance. That's kind of one of the downsides. And also there are certain creatures that have a power toughness differential that the Akroan War, when it goes off, it will not kill them. So we want to kind of think careful about what we want to take with the 1st chapter, and when they're forced to attack in the next turn, then we can kind of block with whatever we stole, and hopefully have it die in combat and kind of get rid of it that way. We also have a run of Arasta of the Endless Web. It's a 4-mana 3/5 with reach, and it's an enchantment creature, so some nice synergy there. And whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery, we get a 1/2 spider token. So Bolas Citadel counts any non-land permanents, so even tokens. So Arasta is a way for us to get to those 10 permanents. So if we want to have the option to sacrifice 10 non-land permanents and deal 10 damage to our opponent, Arasta is one way to help us get there. And it's an enchantment creature, so tons of synergy. But the main finisher here is Cavalier of Flame. It's a 5-mana 6/5. We can pay 1 in red to give our creatures +1/+0 and haste. So ideally we'll have our a couple of Nexus Wardens down, we'll have our Bolas Citadel in play, and we'll chain together a bunch of spells, gain a bunch of life. We'll be able to find a Cavalier off the top of our library, pay the 5 life, have all of our mana open, just like the Fires of Invention decks do, and then we'll be able to activate the ability here on Cavalier, and all those creatures that we put into play We'll be able to give those guys haste, and just kind of out of nowhere, we'll just go super wide, give everything haste, and just attack for a ton of damage, and close out games that way. That's kind of our ideal win condition. Of course, Nightmare Shepherd as a 4/4 flyer can also often win games by itself. But, you know, it is triple red, and it is kind of our finisher, so we're just running it as a 2-of. So we're running 25 lands. The one Castle Locthwain can kind of help us dig in the mid to late game if we're still looking for some answers. We've got the 1 swamp, 1 mountain, 2 forests, all the shock lands with Blood Crypt, Overgrown Tomb, Stomping Ground, and we're also running the scry lands that work pretty well for us. Temple of Malice, Temple of Malady, Temple of Abandon, and 2 Fabled Passage. So the nice thing about these scry lands, with the Bolas of the Citadel, is you can play them off top of your library. If your next card is land, you can scry away, and you can kind of dig for another spell that you can play off the top of your library. So it's a nice little bit of synergy there. Go to the sideboard real quick. We do have some hand disruption and 3 Agonizing Remorse to look at our opponent's hand and choose any non-land card. Since we are kind of a slow deck, we want to wait until the late game, get everything set up, and then kind of close out games. We need some early interaction for those really aggressive decks. So a couple copies of Legion's End, as we can exile 1 or 2 mana creatures on our opponent's side. So all creatures that are same are exiled from the battlefield and their hand, so that can be kind of a blowout sometimes. 3 of Cindervines is an enchantment, so it synergizes nicely with what we're trying to do, and it also removes enchantments. And it punishes our opponent from playing non-creature spells, as whenever they play a non-creature spell, they take 1 damage, and we can pay 1 of any color to sacrifice Cindervines to destroy an artifact or enchantment, and deal 2 damage to that permanent's controller. We have Pharika's Libation as a 2-of, 3 mana instant speed, to get around hexproof and some of the enchantment gods like Thassa, you know, it's indestructible, things like that. As our opponent has to either sacrifice a creature or an enchantment. And for those life gain decks, we have 1 of Tybalt, as our opponents can't gain life. Klothys is just kind of a nice utility spell. It's an enchantment creature for 3 mana. Devotion for 7, it becomes a creature. So we do have the Cavalier, which is triple red. We have a bunch of green creatures. We have a bunch of enchantments. So getting to Devotion shouldn't be a problem. Certain situations, this can be some ramp, as we can exile a land card to add red or green to our mana pool, or we exile anything else to gain 2 life and deal 2 damage to our opponent. So it kind of depends on what we're looking for. Could just be a little bit of life gain for some aggressive decks, or it could just be a way to kind of exile stuff from our opponent's graveyard if they're running escape and things like that. Eat to Extinction can be that hard removal we're looking for if Iroas Blessing isn't quite doing the job, as we can exile a creature or a planeswalker. And let's get to look at the top card of our library, put that card into our graveyard. So with the Skola Grovedancer, if our lands are put into our graveyard, we gain life. So the Eat to Extinction, that's a little bit of synergy there. Obviously, Bolas of the Citadel out. If we hit that pocket of lands and we need to kind of dig for more answers, Eat to Extinction can kind of put that land away, and we can kind of keep going for more creatures, more enchantments. And then Pelucanos, another way to kind of help us out in those aggressive matchups, as a 4 mana 6/6, is definitely going to slow down our opponent's attack. And if our opponent has a ton of removal, we can also just escape it later on for 6 mana and have it come back as a 12/12. And of course has the fight mechanic for 3 mana. We have to fight another creature, and then when it takes damage, it just loses counters. But we're up against Juan Carlos. We have the first. Hand seems decent. Everything in our hand is playable, so yeah, we'll keep it. We have some removal. Definitely leading with the Tomb taps, and we can follow it up with Forest Destiny Spinner, and then either Dryad or Murderous Rider. Swamp and a Vampire, of course. Another Spinner. We might block here. We'll see what their turn 2 play is. Good ways of dealing with Death Touch. Rather not use a Murderous Rider on it. No attacks. Okay. We can Castle Locthwain and Dryad and Temple here. So now we have some red. 2 Murderous Riders. I don't think we need our third one. I think we're just looking for Nexus Wardens and things like that. No attacks, we'll just take it nice and slow. We're not really an aggressive deck, we want to get to the late game. Looking at our Dryad, they could have Murder here. Or Murderous Rider of their own. Odd Nexus, cool. Not hard to see very often. And I'm okay with blocking this Vampire. Just take it nice and slow here. Get another Destiny Spinner out. Play the Stomping Ground tapped. And then we can hold up the Riders next turn. There it is. There we go. Definitely want to kill that. If they attack in just to put a counter on it, that's fine. Nexus Ward. Just need to deal with this Iroas as soon as possible then. We don't have any enchantments in hand to start gaining life just yet anyway, so. Especially against mono black, they're just going to have a bunch of removal spells. So let them kill the Destiny Spinner and things like that first. And then we can get our Nexus Wardens online after we've exhausted hopefully most of their removal. Destiny Spinner not really doing too much here. Okay, we can play both. Let's give them some options here. Hopefully they leave Nexus Wardens alone. They just look at it as a little 1/4 and don't consider it very threatening. Or they could kill the Destiny Spinner just to prevent 2 damage. But if they have a bunch of removal, we're not going to have as many enchantments out, so the activated ability is not as good here. So the Destiny Spinner, not too worried about losing that. I definitely have something, but not playing it. They were holding priority like they had a instant speed spell there. Soren's Thirst. Let's play 2 Soren's Thirst to get rid of my Rider. Okay. Not sure how that was the biggest threat. If they don't want us gaining life. Cavalier is good. If they have more removal, let's see if they want to exhaust on one of these guys first. Cavalier. 7-0. Definitely don't want to lose our Murderous Rider. 5 toughness, so if they have another Obnixilis Cruelty, they can definitely deal with it. Soren's Thirst, though, not really doing too much here. These decks usually run Murder, but maybe the Obnixilis Cruelty is what they're running instead. Okay, that's fine. We have another one in the deck somewhere. Okay, a 1/1 with Death Touch. We do have the trophy in hand, so I guess we'll kill it, just to put the pressure on them a little bit. We have the trophy open, so if they add another permanent, might just kill that. Thirsting Blood, that's a good target. I think we want to get rid of that. I wonder what they're holding up in hand here. so just another removal spell. But maybe not. Attack in for 3. Our second Nexus. And the Zombie Knight. Not the ideal way to win, but somehow we're getting there. Another land. Okay. Just attack all. We got 6, so I'm on a 2-turn clock. Well, I would assume they would be using it here. Could be a ritual set, but with all the creatures that are running, I doubt they're running that in their main deck. Nexus Wardens triggering, getting us some life. Pass the turn. We do have mana to open to draw cards with our castle here. So maybe our opponent just drew too many lands. Soren's Thirst, that keeps them alive. Not sure why they said good game if they had a answer there. Another removal spell. Good game, and you have 2 removal spells, so you're not dead yet. Okay. I guess they feel like they're out of it because now they're empty-handed. The Wanderer. It's not the best, but this Akroan War will be pretty handy. If they do find a creature, we'll just steal it and attack in for lethal. Iroas, it's perfect. See what we can draw here. Another land. Shepherd. Well, let's just win the game. Alright. It's not how we drew it up, but we'll take it. Up against mono black vampires. Gonna want the Legion's End. Gonna want Eat to Extinction. I think the Akroan War is still pretty reasonable. Spinner's okay. Grovedancer's okay. Shave off there. Blessings, pretty medium. Lukeness works great against Death Touch. Tibalt can shut down their life gain, but that was kind of pretty minor what we saw. So I don't think we need to bring in the Tibalt here. It's better against like the more all-in life gain decks. Seems to be more of a sub-theme with only a few creatures having lifelink. Or Soren's Thirst. But then the Thirst doesn't really do much against our 3 and more toughness creatures. I mean, if we mulligan, our next hand's probably going to be terrible. If we keep, we can draw nothing but lands. I'll try it. Our opponent with no 1-drop. Temple, of course. 6 lands, and of course your next 2 cards are lands, because why wouldn't they be? It's amazing how consistent the shuffler is. Wow. Blood Crypt tapped. Our opponent's not doing much either here, so that's fine. They just have a handful of removal probably. Arasta will at least get some spider tokens when they're casting all the removal spells. Nightmare Shepherd. shift too much what we play. We have double green, double black, and double red now for anything that we want to play next turn. Knight of Ebon Legion, sure. It's a little dangerous. They do have plenty of mana to activate, and they're probably going to have some removal as well. There's our Citadel. Definitely feeling a lot better now. I think we'll just go for the Arasta, and then when they go to kill it, we'll at least get a 1-2 out of it. We can follow up with Nightmare Shepherd next turn, and Bolas the Citadel, and hopefully we're not just dead at that point. Our opponent's been very slow to develop their board state. Murder, there's a murder. Okay, there's our 1-2, so we can chump block their knight so they don't get any counter on it. They can pump it up if they want, just to get rid of it. Or they can use a removal spell on it, just to get rid of a token. Arasta has gotten 2 removal spells out of their hand. It's certainly pretty reasonable for us. If they just want to spend their mana activating it, that's fine as well. We just want to preserve our life total, buy a little time, get the Citadel down, and hopefully we can kind of go from there. Choose not to activate. Curious. If we play Nexus Wardens, they'll be inclined to kill something. So I think I'd rather bait out the removal with a Nightmare Shepherd. If they don't view the Nexus Wardens as threatening, they might just kill it just because they have all the removal in their hand. We'll probably just go for Citadel here next turn either way. We already have 3 black in play, so it doesn't really matter which one. We're just going to keep attacking with their knights. They're itching to activate it. If you want to kill the shepherd, you have to use a removal spell. I'm not going to block with that. If you want to waste your turn just activating your knight and not do anything else, that's fine with me. Activate it, kill the spider. Let's have 3 mana open for a potential murder or something. Grovedancer. I'm gonna get the Citadel online. Ooh, that's pretty good. You have to pay for life, but they probably have removal for the Nightmare Shepherd anyway. So we'll attack in. If they have removal, they're going to use it on this Shepherd anyway. Let's get the Knight of Ebon Legion out of the way, so I don't have to worry about that for a couple turns. It does get a counter. So when they get it back, that'll be pretty bad, but we do have the Murderous Rider in hand to potentially answer it. And if they play something with Death Touch, we'll just block it with the Knight of Ebon Legion when they're forced to attack the following turn. Just need to keep our Nexus Wardens alive to get some value off of that. If they had removal though, I imagine they would just use it on the Nightmare Shepherd since that's the most threatening creature on the board. Another knight, sure. So we'll have to attack with that next turn. So we do have black mana to activate their knight. So that's something to consider. So we can block with that. And if they go to activate, we can also activate ours. Definitely want to get this Nexus Wardens down and start gaining some life. I think we just pass here. So we have 3 mana open for Knight, or 3 mana open for Murderous Rider. We'll see what they go for here. I'm fine with blocking the Aerialist with the Shepherd and their Knight with our Knight. And we'll see how best to respond. Having the second Citadel isn't ideal, but we'll draw into it and see what our next card is. So now you have to attack, thanks to the Akroan War. Still have 3 cards in hand. I'm not sure what they're holding on to here. Maybe just more Sorin's Thirsts. It's pretty medium against us. They don't want to attack? Well, you have to. The Akroan War says you must. They're having a hard time figuring this out. Trying to highlight the Akroan War so they can kind of get clued in a little bit what's going on. There you go. Past the blockers. Knight can block Knight. Shepherd can block the Aerialist. And I'm actually okay with them killing it. Disfigure on the Nightmare Shepherd. Don't care too much about that. So the Knight of Ebon Legions will trade. They keep their Aerialist alive. They kill our Nightmare Shepherd, but with our Bolas Citadel and Nexus Wardens online, we're still in a decent spot. And we can actually exile their Knight and get our own Knight of Ebon Legion. So that's pretty cool. Three mana open. Iroas. Okay. That's pretty good. Eat to extinction. It's not ideal. Gonna play a land for turn. A Grovedancer gains us some life. Yeah, I think we need to deal with both of these creatures. So we're going to pay 4 life to exile that. Well, actually, don't need more lands. Get some life, thanks to the Grovedancer, and I definitely want to get rid of Iroas. Alright, now we're in a pretty commanding spot. So, Lucanos doesn't pay any more life than we have to. Another Aerialist. It's a pretty ideal draw for them. Alright, Scry. Yeah, it's an enchantment. It's going to gain us some life. Another one. Play it out. Let's just play all these lands. I don't know if we want to pay 5. Yeah, I think we have to hold off on that. And we'll just attack with their Knight. We'd have black to activate if they want to go for the block. Just activate it anyway just to get a counter on it. And we'll go and play out the Murderous Rider just for the lifelink. And if we have to, we will kill this Aerialist, but for now, we should be okay. Don't really want to block with Nexus Wardens because they could disfigure or Soren's Thirst it. Okay, Vampire. Not worried about that. Yeah, they attack in, we'll just take 2. Don't want to risk losing our Nexus Wardens if I'm not aware that it has reach. Don't want to lose it to a combat trick. Alright, start getting these lands out of the way. Another 8-2 extinction. Alright, we'll attack with our Rider and the Knight. If they want to block with their Vampire, that's fine. Sure, fine with that. Got that creature for free anyway. Now let's go ahead and kill this Aerialist. Let's get Lucrinos down. So we'll draw this E2 Extinction next turn for any other creatures. Again with the early GG. Okay, they kill a creature, they gain some life. 6, 10, 13. Weird to have 13 power on board, but if they have more removal, then might still be a couple turns. Alright, go ahead and pay 2 for another enchantment. I don't know if we want to pay 3. So yeah, we'll just attack. Alright. So Bolas the Citadel, just super powerful card draw engine. The Nexus Wardens is giving you a life, so you can kind of play the spells off top of your library. Yeah, definitely a fun casual deck. Lots of crazy things you can do with it, especially with the Cavalier of Flames and things like that. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, and look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.